I'm Axel Cushing, Editor-in-Chief at GameLuster, and this is The Score, a weekly digest of news and commentary from GameLuster and around the industry for the week ending June 10th, 2023. This week saw the formal launch of Diablo 4. Unsurprisingly, it has become the best-selling game Blizzard has ever put out, at least according to Blizzard's Rod Ferguson, General Manager for the Diablo series. Mr. Ferguson trotted out a weighty number of hours played rather than copies sold, stating that as of June 6th, some 93 million player hours had been logged. Given this, the lowest probable estimate for copies sold is upwards of 3.8 million, if one uses the sales numbers for Blizzard's World of Warcraft Shadowlands expansion in 2020 and the previous record holder, as a basis for comparison. While reviews have been positive, there is considerable discontent regarding the cosmetic shop which Blizzard did not activate for critics prior to the game's launch. The presence of cosmetic horse armor in the game suggests that Blizzard is aware of the unpopularity of its decision to have a cosmetic shop in the first place, and really doesn't care too much about any dislike it may engender. Electronic Arts announced that their long-running MMORPG, Star Wars: The Old Republic, would be moved away from BioWare's oversight and handed over to Broadsword, the successor to former EA subsidiary Mythic Entertainment, which is still maintaining two other EA MMORPGs, Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot. IGN is reporting that roughly half of the existing team working on the Old Republic will be joining Broadsword, with others either being offered other opportunities within EA or being laid off. The move is purportedly to help BioWare refocus on single-player titles. If true, it would be beneficial to see BioWare getting back to what they do best. However, it's questionable as to whether or not EA is intending to release genuinely single-player titles, such as the original Mass Effect and Dragon Age, or if they're going to try another experiment with a live service game like Anthem. Japanese games publication Famitsu reports in their weekly charts that Capcom's recently released Street Fighter VI has not managed to stop Nintendo's juggernaut, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Sales charts from last week indicate that Tears of the Kingdom added another 78,000 physical copies sold to its grand total, now almost 1.6 million. Surprisingly, Street Fighter VI didn't snag the second spot either, with that ranking going to Etrian Odyssey Origins Collection, another new release. It did, however, manage to snag both the third and fourth ranks, owing to differences in platform sales between PS5 and PS4, respectively. It should be noted that Famitsu only covers the Japanese market and only covers physical sales. But even without digital numbers and without international sales being factored in, it's pretty obvious people are really enjoying Tears of the Kingdom. It appears to be driving sales of Nintendo Switch consoles as well as increasing the Zelda fandom in general. Microsoft just got their knuckles rapped by the Federal Trade Commission with a $20 million fine for violating provisions of the Child Online Privacy Protection Act by gathering data on users under the age of 13 and failing to delete it in a timely fashion. As part of the process for creating an Xbox account, users are asked for their date of birth, along with their full name and email address. The process did not ask for parental consent to complete it until after all the information was given. According to the FTC, between 2015 and 2020, Microsoft held on to the data it had collected even if the account creation process failed, thus violating the provision in COPPA forbidding data retention, quote, for longer than is necessary to fulfill the purpose for which it was collected. Microsoft attributed the excessive data retention to a technical glitch, and states that they have deleted all relevant data in accordance with COPPA. They went on to state they are working to develop a next-generation identity and age validation system, promising it will be a convenient, secure, one-time process. It's difficult to say if this incident will have any impact on the situation with Microsoft's appeal of the FTC's rejection for the proposed Activision Blizzard-Microsoft merger, but it's unlikely to be helpful. As an update to an item from last week's podcast, Apple officially unveiled their mixed reality headset as the capstone of the Worldwide Developers Conference keynote. Officially called Vision Pro, the price of the device is actually higher than initial reports suggested, with a base price of $3,499 US. It's expected to come out early next year in the US, with other countries to follow. The headset's goggles can be kept opaque for immersive VR use or made transparent for an augmented reality sort of environment. Apple states that the entire system can be controlled entirely through hand gestures, eye tracking, and voice commands, though they do allow for game controllers to be used, as demonstrated when they plugged in a PS5 DualSense controller. Disney CEO Bob Iger was also on hand for the keynote, extolling the virtues of the Vision Pro and stating Disney is working on quote-unquote more personalized experiences for fans. Apple CEO Tim Cook stated his belief that Vision Pro will introduce people to spatial computing in the same way iPhone introduced them to mobile computing. With this particular price point, it's difficult to see the Vision Pro as anything but a toy for overly affluent code bros and influencers looking for the next new shiny thing, and I hate to think that this monstrosity might somehow become desirable for future visits to Disney theme parks, which are already at unconscionably high price points on their own. The Summer Games Fest showcases this week have given players a lot to look forward to for the second half of this year and beyond. Ubisoft announced the first new Prince of Persia title for PC and consoles in 14 years with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Fans of Spider-Man won't have to wait too much longer, with the announced Spider-Man 2 getting a release date of October 20th. Meanwhile, Alan Wake 2 will be coming out a few days before that, on October 17th. For gamers with a more fantasy bent, and who want to wash the taste of Lord of the Rings Gollum out of their mouths, a new survival crafting game, Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria, is tentatively scheduled for fall 2023. But if you're looking for something to tide you over until then, Gunfire Games will be releasing Remnant 2 on July 25th, going head-to-head with a new Dead by Daylight expansion featuring actor Nicolas Cage. Speaking of actors, acting, and movie stars, Summer Games Fest showed off a few of those as well, and not just Nicolas Cage coming out to pimp his first video game appearance. The Witcher Season 3 was announced with a trailer showing Henry Cavill, who plays Geralt, Anya Chalotra, who plays Yennefer, Freya Allan, who plays Ciri, and Joey Beatty, who plays Jaskier, making their introductions. They carefully did not mention it was Cavill's last season on the series. Gamers were also treated to a behind-the-scenes look of Baldur's Gate 3, with Jason Isaacs showing off his voice acting chops as the suavely villainous Enver Gortash, with a promised release date of August 31st. Immortals of Avium lead actor Darren Barnett showed up to help promote his upcoming game, and God knows it needs all the help it can get. The most surprising announcement, however, was for the upcoming Twisted Metal series streaming on Peacock starting July 27th. With an introduction by Will Arnett, viewers watched a clip featuring Anthony Mackie from The Hurt Locker and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, facing off against Killer Clown Sweet Tooth, physically played by wrestler Samoa Joe, but dubbed by Arnett. Some fans are arguably and understandably upset. Seriously, who would have pictured a karaoke duet of Sisqo's The Thong Song? But given the scantiness of the storyline in the games, we may have to hate-watch the series just to get the full picture. Finally, a story which shouldn't surprise anybody but has considerable implications for gamers. GameStop recently fired CEO Matt Furlong, the latest in a string of short-term CEOs who've sat in the big chair at the troubled retailer following his appointment in June of last year. This marks 6 CEOs in as many years. Furlong was apparently terminated without cause, and will certainly reap at least some benefits for it. In the interim, GameStop's board has elected Ryan Cohen, founder of pet supply website Chewy, as executive chairman. GameStop announced these particular changes as part of their first quarter earnings results, and further announced they would not be holding a conference call with investors to discuss the company's performance. This should be ringing warning bells for gamers. Great big, loud warning bells. A couple of years back, I wrote a piece detailing how GameStop was still in trouble despite the temporary respite of a short squeeze, which ultimately helped bring the company into the black, if only briefly. And being completely fair, those same conditions are still in play, along with all new troubles. On the positive side, the announced end of the pandemic and the opening of businesses makes for a much smoother retail experience for gamers. On the negative, the loss of so many people at Game Informer, one of the few print publications still out there covering the games industry, is a bitter blow. Frankly, Ryan Cohen's appointment as executive chair only makes sense for investing wonks on Wall Street. His calls for a technology-driven vision are meaningless buzzwords absent a specific plan to combat the twin threat of declining foot traffic and entrenched online interests. He has the currently in vogue pedigree of having a successful .com startup and the dubious appellation of activist investor. I suspect that before the next quarter is out, we'll be seeing news out of Mr. Cohen about what direction he thinks GameStop will be taking. I'm also certain that it's not going to be a direction that anybody outside of Ryan Cohen or his cronies on the GameStop board will find particularly appealing. Let's make one thing completely clear. The pandemic was a distinctive event, an event which required exigent solutions to urgent problems. That time has seemingly passed, which means that what was required to operate before should not be required to continue operating, even if it seems to be helping in the short term. And with regards to retail spaces, especially GameStop, there is absolutely no justification for maintaining those measures if they're not helping the business recover in a long-term fashion. As galling as it may sound, certainly to a particular species of loathsome investor that just wants to slash and burn their way to another summer house or yacht, GameStop has a brand identity which is distinctive and worth capitalizing on instead of trying to short sell it into oblivion. There was a reason that the Wall Street Bets short squeeze worked, and it wasn't just because they rallied a whole bunch of random Redditors to the cause. It is literally impossible to outfight Valve, GOG.com, Microsoft, and Sony on convenience. Those four alone have any would-be challenger beat. Buying a digital copy of a game is fast, painless, and effortless. Absent a few individual hiccups, all the sharp edges and rough surfaces of the process have been ground away. If Mr. Cohen wants to transform GameStop into something other than one more headstone in the retail graveyard, he and the board are going to have to lean hard into something that the online retailers cannot provide, whether that's a great customer service experience or gaming-centric events which cannot be duplicated virtually. Something has to be done and done right. Done in a way that satisfies the customers, the investors, and the market. Maybe not in equal degrees, but something better than the downward spiral GameStop is making right now. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe. You can find other news articles, along with guides, reviews, and features on our website, GameLuster.com. The opening music for The Score was written and performed by Nirav Gandhi. I'm Axel Cushing, Editor-in-Chief at GameLuster, and this has been The Score. Thank you for listening.